Hi, it's Chris, and here to bring you another video of Alchemy Stars. Now, today I just want to talk about the new mode, Into the Abyss, and yes, it is a mode. Freaking heck, it is actually ridiculous. Like, yeah, so Into the Abyss, for those of you who just might not know what it is or what it's about, it's essentially in one sentence, Spire, not even 2.0, Spire 3.0. And that you kind of go further and further down through the floors, through this undercity, and you kind of on each floor you have a series of battles. So you kind of like go through floor 3 here, and you've got a couple of battles you have to do. Now, a bit like exactly like Pandora's box in the chapter mode, you can only use one T, like you can use the Orions once per battle. So already, this is floor 3. You're gonna need 30 Aurorians here. No, 25 Aurorians, sorry. And already that is a lot of Aurorians. And all these fights, they're not exactly kind of easy. Um, they've got very weird mechanics, which I'll go into in a kind of um in a bit. But what's also kind of not kind of you don't want to kind of look at so much is the level. So say recommend a level essentially level 3, level 10. But some of these bosses and some of these fights, like especially when I found it even floor 2, these ones were saying their level was level 1, but the damage they took compared to other enemies of a similar level in other modes is not the same. So even though it says, oh yeah, Ascension 3 level 1, the damage scaling for some enemies is like in terms of how much damage they take is very different. So you just got to watch out for that. Now, this mode also has like these weird. It has some good mechanics for you, has some positive mechanics, and actually I think there's a few that are very kind of game changing. So I'll go into one here just to kind of show you. I'm just going to use any water team. This also gives me a chance to kind of talk about one of my other tips for this game, for this mode, and that is as you're doing each floor, like each battle kind of has a weird mechanic. There's all the similar same bosses. There's all the little like the twins and the Felix and her partner and all sorts of different kind of same kind of bosses, but they kind of have like weird mechanics to them. There's these portals that summon monsters forever and ever and ever. There are these dark crystals that are actually a pain to deal with because you can walk into them and your attack would work, but if you're inside of that area, you will not be able to use your skills. So they kind of need to be killed. They kind of need to be destroyed, and they can only be like they have to be hit 3 or 4 times. A bit like when an enemy goes into night mode in that mechanic, then they kind of get a sectioned health. That's what the dark crystals need to do. But there is some very very good news. One of the best pieces of news is the fact that down here you've got a one time. Actually, it's not even one time. It's more like every kind of 2 rounds you can change a chromatic tile, or you can change a tile into chromatic. So you've got like this free one time, like this this rechargeable um chromatic tile change, which is really really good. And also I think the most game changing mechanic about this mode is even if you run out of mode rounds, so if you go down this one turn left and you're like, I'm not gonna kill a boss, you kind of your round ends, but you don't the battle's not finished. It then starts to suck your health off and you start to lose health after every turn after that. So you kind of lose 10%, then you lose like 15% and so on and so forth. And so you can kind of survive a bit longer than you normally would have. But it's just kind of like there's all these different things. There's one battle where they put the boss all along at the back here at the top, but then all of a sudden you kind of go along. Actually, I might even show you. You go along, and actually, the boss itself is got some enemies in front of them. And you're like, oh, that means the cross mechanics just don't work. I think it was probably this one actually. Yeah, it's this one. So you go in there and you realize, oh, Maggie won't work very well. You know, she can still work, but you can't get to the boss easily. There's all sorts of different things. Like there's one fight where I couldn't really find out why um my skills just wouldn't activate. So here you've got the two enemies already in front, so you just use Maggie, and all of a sudden Maggie is just kind of, yeah, she gets to convert, but you can't get to the boss still. So you're just like, oh, okay, kind of finished there. But this is not for the faint-hearted. I mean, if I go here, this mode is for when not only do you have to have a huge amount of level 80, like that huge amount of characters, but they also need to be leveled up. Because, you know, I've got lots of level 8. I've got about 5 level 80s for each, 5 level 80s for each element, but I've got so many other characters in like 40. But this isn't enough, because you go to floor, I'm on floor 5, and already on floor 5 it's asking you for 8 battles. That's already 40 Aurorans. I know for another floor later on there's 10 battles, so you're getting 50 Aurorans that you need to fight. So it's not even just enough to have, oh yeah, I have a couple of teams. It's kind of almost get to a point where you need a ton of teams, like 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, with, or at least like 2 or 3 teams almost per element. But I would say some tips that I've got so far really from this mode is, one of the most important thing is sometimes you might want to just, like I said, go into the battle just to kind of test out what you need, and you might need to go into each one, because even though in this floor you've got the same boss twice, the mechanics of the fight might just be a little bit different. And when tiles are cleared, new tiles will appear in the direction of the arrow. So the battle's mechanics themselves, or kind of quirks, are a bit different. So you might want to just go in and kind of see what it is, so you're not kind of surprised by what's going on. Another kind of tip really is, which is actually a bit surprising, is it's not always necessary to have a healer. Like, for some reason, even though some enemies take less damage from you, the bosses and everyone else tend to do less damage to you, or they don't feel like they do as much damage. So you can get away with some battles without a healer. I think, like I said, definitely obviously have loads of level 80s. And I think one other thing that is just so important is you've got to kind of probably count every converter you've got, every single one, every converter, every teleporter that you have basically needs to be usable. Because even here, I had quite a bit of life. Sakari, I've got Pact, I've got Hero, but I needed Persolo for one fight. Persolo was she was clutch at one point, you know, just to convert an extra towel. I'm gonna level up Jola just to kind of help with that. I'm gonna level up Persolo just to help with just converting, just to kind of make sure I can move around more. And yeah, I would just say kind of really. One last kind of tip with this is focus on the boss, because obviously these are all boss fights, and there's some fights where the little kind of portal just keeps opening an enemy, so you just want to really focus on the boss as much as possible. But yeah, each fight just kind of has unique kind of things. There's one fight where you are in your boss, the boss is in a prison of sorts, and you're kind of having to, I think it's this guy, it's this Umbra Hulk. You're kind of in a prison, and you have to kind of kill this mate. You have to kill this enemy here to release the Umbra Hulk, and the enemy is very tanky. So you've got, so if you look here, he's surrounded by You're surrounded by the stones. You can use you can put enemies into it, and you can use AoEs or your skills, active skills in there. But you're gonna have to kill this guy to for the stones to release. So it's just a bit, yeah. There's some strategy and some way you have to do some fights really. Now, if you would want me to, just leave in the comments behind at the bottom really about I can do a video about kind of certain flaws and in more detail about how you should beat them, what characters you should use, if people want to find that useful. Because again, as we go through the flaws, it will just kind of be almost more. I mean, you get to floor 5 and it's becoming a more of a battle of attrition here. You've got to fight 8 times. So, you need to really strategize with what you've got. But overall, actually, this is it's an excellent mode for especially for the whales or really end game players like me who've kind of done either completed Spire, completed Elysium, done most of Pandora's box, most of it. Because the mode is totally worth doing. Like, I think it has got the most rewards you probably will ever get from a mode. You're getting 100 Limumba per battle, which is quite insane. I think thinking about it, I feel like it's the most that I've probably seen in a long time. But not only that, but every 10 battles you were getting a Solumba Druze order box, and that is actually just it's actually insane because but you know it feels insane, but actually you still need 5 of them, but it's still incredibly good because these astral gems just take forever. So like I've got one of these already. I've got a Druze for fighting 10 floors or for 10 battles, and if you just keep climbing, you're gonna hopefully get five Druze boxes, and therefore you can then break through a 6-star. So it's really really good, and you're getting obviously 100 Limamba per fight as well. But yeah, I will see if I would need to do more videos on each floor in particular, just to kind of go over strategies and what you should do. Can't even recommend characters either. You just need lots of characters, lots and lots. But yeah, and with that, I will see you in another video with Alchemy Stars.